What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Alex, and in today's episode of Sorted, we are going to make sure that the engine in my 2005 C55 AMG runs as smooth as glass, or at least we're going to make sure that it doesn't go from running like this to wanting to jump out and punch you in the face like this one. To start off, we have to take a look at some of the parts we're going to be replacing today and also some of the tools that we'll need for today's video. So let's head over to the table of high performance, or I guess it was the table of normal performance in the last video. But today it's going to be the table of automotive youth and reliability. Welcome to the table of automotive youth and reliability. As you've probably figured out, we will be replacing both of the engine mounts in today's video, and a big thank you to FCP Euro for providing these mounts. As you guys know, they offer a lifetime warranty on everything they sell, including engine mounts, which is awesome, especially for us AMG guys who beat the ever-living hell out of our cars and probably need to replace these every couple of years. So thank you, FCP. Check them out in the video description box below. Now, I went with Lemforder mounts. I really like these. I think it's a great balance between cost and quality. These are only about $90 each, and the Mercedes-Benz factory mounts are $170 a piece. Moving on down the table, we have the basic hand tools, which I'll list in the video description box. And then we have this stuff. I call it Dum Dum, and I'm going to show you guys a really neat trick. It's basically a black gooey substance, but we'll be checking that out a little bit later in today's video. But probably the most important part of today's video is this little tool right here. A lot of the top bolts for many Mercedes-Benz motor mounts are very difficult to reach, and this is a total lifesaver. It sits on that top bolt, and then you can use a 3/8 drive extension to loosen it up. This is huge, guys. You're going to want to get yourself one of these. I actually had been using one for years. I lent it out and didn't get it back in time for this video, so I picked this up on Amazon for about $20, and after this video, after I use this, I'm going to give this away to one of you guys. So comment down below. I don't know, comment your favorite Mercedes-Benz AMG model, and I will ship this out to you totally free. So let's go over by the car, come up with a game plan on how to replace these two engine mounts. All right, guys, the first step here, and this goes for many different cars out there, is to remove anything close to the firewall. So in this case, we're going to be removing the mass airflow sensor, and this is the little 90-degree elbow that the mass airflow sensor sits in, something like this. And you don't want to smash this because we're actually going to be lifting the engine up. So I removed the air box, the mass airflow sensor, and this 90-degree elbow, and of course we removed the lower engine panels. So let's get underneath there, take an up-close look at how kind of crammed these engine mounts are, and figure out how we are going to get them out. Okay, guys, before we go underneath there, let me just show you something that's awesome with this tool, and this is something that you're also going to want to do first, really before you do anything, is just loosen up these top motor mount bolts. And this tool you can use on the passenger side and get to right there. If I can get, oh, there we go. Okay, so now you can see how the tool is right there, and you can stick an extension right there and loosen up that top motor mount bolt, and then you can get it out by hand. So that is huge. And on the driver's side, I think we have to do this from the bottom, but it's just as easy. I think I've come up with a pretty good game plan here down below, and you might be thinking, Alex, weren't you a dealer tech for like 9 years and you probably know how to do this job? No, that is not the case. I've been gone for 7 years. I've been out of the game for a long time. So I'm using Google just like you guys and researching how to do some of these jobs. So this is what I came up with. Basically, the passenger side mount right there is the easier side to get to. What we're going to do is we're going to drop the sway bar. So these E12 inverted Torx bolts are going to come out. We're going to lower this and then probably take this line loose. And then after we jack up the engine, I think this mount will come out through the bottom. So we've already loosened up those top bolts. Now that everything is put together, that's the best time to do it. You don't want to do that after you've jacked up the engine or anything like that. And then also you have your bottom bolts right there. These are 13 millimeters on both sides. So these bolts are both coming out, one on top, one on bottom. So that is the game plan for the passenger side. And you don't have to take the wheel off. I just did that for better lighting. Now, the driver's side looks to be a lot more difficult. It's right there, and the AC compressor is right there in the way. I don't think there's any way that one is coming out this way. Maybe we can get rid of the rack, but in doing my research, it seems like the easiest route is removing the driver's side exhaust pipe. And I know this sounds kind of intimidating, but this is the easy side to do. There are just 2 flange bolts up there. You're going to take loose the connectors. There's another one up there for the O2 sensors. Then you have 2 nuts for the bracket there, and you have 2 bolts at this flange. Now you want to at least soak these in PB Blaster and probably get replacement bolts. These probably will break. I don't think they've ever been out. But once the exhaust is out of the way, then we're going to take out these 2 transmission mount bolts right here. And guys, I wanted to replace that transmission mount, but a few days ago I was playing with my kids. They were pretending to be my automotive parts department, and they had my Lemforder mount, and now I can't find it. So not a big deal. This mount is actually not bad, but I do typically replace it with the engine mounts for good measure. So if you're going to replace your trans mount, you do need to take the cross member down, but it's just these bolts here, and then a couple trans mount bolts there, and that's it. But in this case, we're going to take these bolts out so that we can raise the engine up even more. So after all of that is done, I'm going to raise the engine up in this area right here where the transmission meets the engine, right in here. And we're going to put a block of wood right here. I'm going to remove probably some of these brackets, and you got to be gentle, be slow. And if you're not working with a lift, you can use a floor jack with a piece of wood right here. Some guys do it off the oil pan, but I've had good luck jacking it up right in here. So that is the game plan, guys. So let me get to work here. And then after I get the exhaust out and I jack up the engine, I'll show you what kind of room we're working with, and we will pull that guy out and that guy out. Look at all of this room. I loosened up this line here and this one, although that didn't really do much. But either way, we're going to be fine here. We're going to jack up the engine, and then this mount is totally just coming right out that way. If only Mercedes designed it to be so easy for the driver's side. Look, there's like no room in here unless we take a bunch of stuff apart. So I'm really hoping that we can just get it out the backside, and that also looks impossible right now. But let's get this exhaust out of the way and see what kind of room we actually have to work with. That driver's side exhaust pipe is out, and we didn't have any casualties at all. I had to use the MAP gas torch a little bit to heat up the nuts for the flange there, but other than that, it came apart very easily and totally worth it. Take a look at the amount of room that we now have to get this driver's side motor mount out. So after I lift the engine, this will pull right out like that. And I wasn't able to get to that top bolt with the exhaust in place, but check it out. With the awesome tool and the exhaust removed, we're just going to get a little extension and a ratchet in there and be able to remove that top bolt with no issues. At that point, we will be jacking up the engine from this area here, and I will use a block of wood. It fits very nicely in here with this bracket taken out. This bracket normally goes right here and holds all the O2 sensor connectors. And guys, I like to take pictures of stuff when I'm working on cars so I don't forget where anything goes. It saves a lot of time. And I've known a lot of people to do that. So we're going to put the wood there, and then we are going to use that screw jack to raise the engine. Now, if you're working on the ground without a lift, you can use a floor jack, but always use that piece of wood, and I really like this area to lift it up from. Now, we also need to disconnect that trans mount like I was showing you, but what I wanted to show you was why I use this dum-dum. Now, these are the manifold bolts for the exhaust manifold, and you're going to use an extension, a long one with a swivel. And when you're going to put it back together, they just fall out very easily. So all I do here is I take some of this stuff, just a little bit. You don't need a ton. And I just put it inside of the socket. This is kind of hard to do with one hand like that. And then, as you can imagine, it holds this bolt in, and if you do this job, guys, you will know how important this is. It's almost hard to explain, but there you go. So the bolt gets held into the swivel socket, and then you can go ahead and zip them back into that flange right there, and it makes life a ton easier. So let me jack this engine up. I'm gonna replace both of these mounts, put the exhaust back together, wrap it all up, and then I wanna show you the difference between brand new fresh motor mounts and the old motor mounts. And I wanna show you that even with new mounts, because they are hydraulically filled, there is gonna be some movement, and that's totally normal. People comment all the time in some of my videos with the E55 that my motor mounts are bad, and they might be now, but they weren't at that time. These engines do rock a little bit. So anyway, let me wrap this up and then I'll show you the final end result. Quick correction before I wrap this all up. You do not actually need to remove this transmission cross member in order to replace the trans mount. It's just the 2 bolts from the bottom and these 2 bolts right here. And check out how bad this engine mount is. It looks like it's been murdered, and that's because they are filled with hydraulic fluid. So when they break, sometimes they leak this fluid all over the place, including on my nice pretty boots. I also wanted to mention that this can be mistaken for an engine oil leak. So if you see a brown oily substance over here or over there, don't automatically assume engine oil. It could be a bad engine mount. Now, this job, I believe, pays about 5 hours. And guys, if you do the proper steps to gain the right amount of clearance, like removing the exhaust, lowering that sway bar, those oil lines, and then obviously jacking up the engine, each side is a cakewalk. I think I got these in and out in about 30 seconds max, and that special tool really helps. So this is something you guys can totally do at home. Even if you don't have a lift, just use jack stands, use a floor jack with some wood, a little bit of patience, and in one day, you guys can do this entire job and save yourself a ton of money in the process. Not to mention that this is one of the most satisfying repair jobs you will do, because you're gonna notice a massive difference in the way the car feels. It'll make it feel kind of like brand new. So with that being said, let me wrap this all up and I'll show you the difference between how it was before and how it is now all fixed up. And so you can see that even with brand new engine mounts, you're still gonna get a little bit of movement when you're doing things like brake torquing the engine or full throttle blast from a dead stop. And to be honest with you, this is kind of part of what makes it a Mercedes-Benz. This is why these engines run so smoothly. It's because they have a cushion in the engine mount. Now, if you wanna get nuts with high performance stuff, you can get solid engine mounts, or you can get engine mounts that are filled with polyurethane, which is something I'm gonna consider for the E55. But for the C55, I just wanted a normal OEM style replacement engine mount. Now, as far as level of difficulty, I would rate the C55 probably like a 6 or a 7 maybe out of 10. There are some models that are a lot easier and there are some that are a lot harder, like some of the V12 cars where you have to remove the entire exhaust or the engine. But in general, if you have a 6-cylinder or 8-cylinder Mercedes-Benz, whether it's 4MATIC or not, the procedure is going to be pretty similar to this, and typically these jobs usually pay around 4 or 5 hours on the 6-cylinder and 8-cylinder models. So this is something that you guys can definitely do at home and save yourself a ton of money. Now, the C55 is all ready to go. It's ready to drive right out of the garage, and as you guys have probably guessed, I gotta go to work. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, hit that thumbs up button, share the video, comment down below, and don't forget to check out the video description box down below. I'll link all the parts and all the tools that you guys saw in this video. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you've been around for a while, thank you so much for the support. Make sure to hit that notification bell. I hope that everybody has an awesome day, and I'll see you all in the next video.